This video is brought to you by my supporters on Patreon. Hey guys, I'm here with a video telling you guys how I made my KDA Akali cosplay. I've gotten a lot of questions asking how I made my cosplay, and when it came to the costume part, I didn't record any of it. I just recorded how I made her two weapons, which I have videos up already on my channel. Since I don't have a full-on tutorial showing you exactly how I made it, I'm going to go over how I made it. First things first, here is the belt and the bag. We're going to go into the bag to start with because I have stuff in there. First thing I pulled out was this mask. To make her mask, I just bought a black mask off of Amazon, I think it was, and then I used acrylic paint and a stencil that I drew up to create the mouth. The stencil took a little bit of working with because this is not a flat surface, as you can see, it is rounded. So as I used the stencil, I had to kind of like work my way across the mask, curving the stencil as I went along, and for that reason I only did one layer with the stencil, and then I went back through and freehanded the rest on, following the outline that was already laid down until the white was opaque enough for me. I said earlier that I used acrylic paint. I did not. I actually used fabric paint this time. For some of the pieces on this costume, I commissioned 3D prints to be made. All of the 3D prints were commissioned from a cosplayer called Ravenstar Cosplay. If I forget to link her down below, just check out my social media profiles. I will be tagging her and linking her in the photos of this costume. So these earrings were one of those 3D prints. I had her 3D print both pieces for this. I just had to sand these down when I got them. They actually didn't need too much sanding. Her 3D prints are fairly nice. So I sanded these and then primed them with a sandable spray paint primer. Sanded that to kind of fill in any grooves and to get it as smooth as possible, and then painted those with gold spray paints. So the holes in this, because these are a kind of thick piece, they are lightweight though, so they were comfortable to wear, but they are thick. So I had to find a fairly big hoop to get through here and then attach the actual earring piece to. The belt buckle for the belt was also 3D printed. Again, same technique, sanded, primed, sanded, and then painted. I stuck Velcro on the back for this because, as you can see here, there is Velcro on the belt. That is because otherwise this would not be functional at all. Like, this heart is not going to slip through this silver square piece whatsoever. So the best way for me to do that was make the part that's going to end up sitting here have Velcro on it and put Velcro on the back so that this is removable and the belt is still able to be taken on and off like normal. The belt was just a plain white belt I bought off of eBay. I got this fanny pack off of Amazon, I believe it was, and then added to it to complete it. So it had a tassel on the zipper, and I removed that because I don't think she has a tassel on hers. And then I just quickly sewed together this rectangular strip of fake leather. I have another thing that looks a lot like the belt buckle. For this piece, I casted it. I casted it using like that clay mold making stuff that you get from Joann's. I messed up on that cast a little bit though. I did not work fast enough and it started curing before I got to really imprint this into it correctly. I underestimated the amount of mold making stuff I would need. So it's a little bit wonky and it required a whole lot of sanding to fix because there were some major bumps on here. But I eventually got there and it's not quite perfect, but I think it looks okay. This attaches using Velcro. There is Velcro on the back of this and there is Velcro here, and I had hand sewn this white piece to the back. For the top, I bought a spaghetti strap white tank top off of eBay. It had some extra straps on it that I had to cut off and I seam ripped out from over here. I also let out the hem along the bottom because it was really short. And then I went through and added black bias tape all around the edges. I did this while I was wearing it because this is stretch material and so it does shrink back down when not worn. And I did not have stretched bias tape, and I didn't really want to make bias tape out of stretch fabric. I wanted this to be a quick and easy thing to do. So I added I pinned the bias tape in place while I was wearing it to make sure that it was going to be able to fit on me, and I was able to like take it on and off. So for this strap here, I just cut a slit in the bias tape and pinned it around the strap and sewed around the strap. So the strap is sticking out. It wasn't detached whatsoever, but in the back I did shorten these straps a little bit. So I seam ripped these out and then re-sewed them back in when I was sewing on the bias tape. Onto the jacket. I found this jacket on eBay. Not like this. It was just a puffy raincoat that I found. It's like a normal length raincoat. It was not from like a store that sells a lot of the products. It was like from somebody just selling a raincoat that they had that they never wore. So I feel extremely lucky to find something that actually had a diamond crisscross pattern and no other weird pattern stitching going on in it, because a lot of the ones I found, if they had the diamond stitching, they switched it up when it got to the sleeves or something, and that's not what I wanted. It does not have a hood. Her jacket does have a hood, but that was something I was willing to overlook just because she never uses the hood. I cut off the length, obviously, because this was really long, so I tried it on. I marked where I wanted to have the length sit at and cut it off. I used a bunch of scrap fabric that I already had because I had a lot of gold scrap fabrics that were just big enough for this but not big enough for anything else. So I took the gold fabric I had and created a kind of like bias tape situation for this. So it's folded over here and then the edges are folded in obviously as well to make sure that it has a nice edge. And then I just sewed all of this down along the edge. Before I did the bottom piece sew, I did sew on these pieces. So there was a zipper here. I just sewed on top of that because I cut off the actual like zipper part. So there was none of that. You can remove it if you wanted to. I was just lazy. This is gold bias tape that I had. So for the sleeves, I sewed a strip of gold fabric, just a large rectangle to it. It's not sewed to the inside of the sleeves, and that's because this part has to open for my hands to fit through. Otherwise it's not, like this isn't stretchy fabric, so it's not going to stretch with this fabric. So this fabric is sized to fit as large as this woven. I didn't want to have to try to bother to like hand sew all of this to the elastic while it was stretched. It was just too much work, and you can't see on the inside of it when I'm wearing it anyways because it's pushed up to here, so it's like fitted around my arm even with this piece like not attached. I also took that same gold fabric and attached these little rectangle pieces that she has on her sleeves. I sewed these over so that the seams, the edges were nice, and then I hand sewed it on from there. I also got this patch. This patch is off of eBay. I will try to link where I bought it from below if I remember. Hopefully I will. If I don't, just say, hey, where'd you get it from? And I'll tell you. This patch, I think, is an iron-on, but I was worried that it wasn't going to stay ironed onto this fabric due to it being this, like, the kind of material that it is and the weird puffiness and, like, stitching details that it has, so it was, like, an uneven surface. So instead of going through all that, I just stitched it on using some black thread. Here are the pants that are still attached to the coat hanger. Okay. These were pants that I had gotten off of eBay. They were just black, stretchy, shiny pants, and I was like, oh, hey, these look kind of like hers. So what I did is while wearing these inside out, so when you're wearing these inside out, by the way, you gotta make sure that when you turn them right side out, it's going to be the right leg you're cutting off, like the correct one you're cutting off, because they are in the opposite direction when you flip them inside out. So while I was wearing these inside out, I marked just with a white pen that I had where I wanted the legs to be cut at, and then took them off, cut off that fabric, fold this over and hem it and make it look nice. I sewed that down with a zigzag stitch so it's still stretchy. Using the bottom part of the leg that I cut off, I made the legging piece that she has. And then I just cut a slit into the side here like she has. So I just took some vinyl that I had, cut out a 1-inch strip of the vinyl, and then placed it on my pants and ironed it on. And I did the same thing for the leggings. And lastly, I made the hat. The hat, again, I bought the base off of eBay. It was a flat bill cap. It was black with a white base here. I will insert a picture of what it originally looked like, and no, it did not have this hole in the back of it. So what I did for this was I took 2 different shades of purple fabric paint. One of them was like this color purple that you kind of see here, and the other one was similar to it, but it had glitter on it. And I just layered it on a ton, because when you only do a couple layers on black material like that, it stays kind of dark like these spots do. And when you layer it on a lot, it will eventually brighten up. And then using a ruler and a white pen, I marked out the diamond pattern that I wanted. So I drew out all the lines for that, and then I went through and filled those in with fabric paint. So these spots that I think they might look black on camera are painted, and in person they have a kind of reddish purple tint to them, but they are still dark. And then these were just a very light purple paint. This is all fabric paint except for, I think this one, the light purple, had a little bit of acrylic paint mixed into it. I just mixed the two. I don't know if you're supposed to, but it works fine. Again, these pieces, all right here, were all 3D printed by Raven Star Cosplay. I did the same thing where I had sanded them, primed them, sanded them again, and then painted them with acrylic, and then I attached them to the hat using contact cement. So when I attach these, I like to put the contact cement onto the piece, and then it's still away from the hat, figure out where I want it to sit. I'll try to figure it out beforehand too, just to make sure, and then press that down onto the hat. And then I pull it away, because it's not going to stick just by pressing it down. You have to apply contact cement to both surfaces that you want to be stuck together. But it does leave an outline and a guideline for me to follow, so that I don't just get contact cement all over the place, because contact cement doesn't dry clear. It dries with this yellowy tinge, so you want to try to avoid getting it in places where you're not going to have something stuck to it. So after I pulled it away, I reapplied contact cement to this piece, and then followed my guideline, applying contact cement very carefully to where the pieces were going to stick to. Followed the instructions, wait for a little bit, let it get tacky, and then stuck it on. For the underneath of the hat, I traced around the bill of the hat with some excess, as you can see here, and cut that out. I cut it out on black fabric. I found this to be the easiest thing, because this was white and I did need to iron on vinyl, and I don't know how vinyl irons on to hats. I wouldn't know if that would work or anything. Like, I don't know if you can even iron on vinyl to something that has fabric paint on it, because my other option was to paint this all with fabric paint. So the easiest method for me was to cut it out on some black bear fabric I had lying around. I used that to create a template for me to work off of, to create the templates or stencils for the vinyl pieces, so that I could figure out what sizes I need to make these stars. And I made the stars, and I cut those out on iron on vinyl, ironed that onto the black fabric. I did 2 smaller stars first, the ones on the side, and then I ironed this on top of that, because this one does sit on top of the side pieces. And then I glued this on. I glued this on using contact cement, this fabric piece. And when I glued this on, I created these little slits around the edges, and this is to help the fabric bend over so it doesn't fold weird or something. And anything that was left around the edge of the hat, I just cut off. And to finish up the hat, I added gold bias tape all the way around the edge. That's why I didn't care if the edge of this hat, like by just cutting that off, looked bad or anything, because it's covered in a gold lining anyways. And for this I used hot glue to glue on the bias tape. And that is how I made my Akali cosplay. So hopefully you guys found this video helpful and understood what I was saying. I tried to explain it as best as possible and show it to you guys as best as possible. I will try to remember to link all the stuff that I found on eBay and Amazon down in the description below. Thanks for watching. Have a lovely day. Bye!